Calling the unqualified has often been one of God's specialities. Not only in today's world, but all through history, we can clearly see where God qualified those who were clearly in the natural unqualified. What is up? My name is Shelley Pretorius and I am the host from the Heads or Tails podcast. Welcome to another episode of the podcast / YouTube channel. I'm still trying to figure out a proper intro for these videos. That's my puppy, by the way. That is rude! He clearly just wants it all about him, as usual. Takes after his mama. No, I'm kidding. His name's Corbin, and he is 8 months. He's a poodle, and he's a brat. So last week was a super exciting week for the Heads or Tails podcast because we launched our very first YouTube video, and I had a couple of you guys give me feedback saying how some of you actually prefer the videos over the podcast, which is so good. I'm so happy about it because I really do love the filming side of things and all that. Only thing is I just don't know how often I'm going to be releasing a video. I am going to try in the beginning a weekly video, but for now I am just putting my all my focus on the podcast, but there will be more videos to come. So when I say I have been so excited to get to this particular episode of Heavenly Qualifications, I'm not lying. I get so excited because I think it just reminds me how good our God is and where He shows up in areas in our life when we are lacking and we don't qualify for those specific tasks and roles that He has set before us. So let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about some of the people from the Bible. David was a shepherd boy. He defeated Goliath with a tiny slingshot, a tiny stone, and eventually he became king of Israel. But we got to remember, he wasn't just any king. He was a king who won every single battle, and that's because God qualified him. Rahab, a pagan prostitute who helped hide the Israelite spies, and she could have been prosecuted. Her family could have been killed if Jericho found out. But because she had faith, God qualified her. She was a pagan prostitute, but God saw her faith. Where she, in the natural, couldn't be more unqualified for the role God set before her. So if you look at the people in the Bible, you will notice that a lot of them couldn't be more unqualified. But the one thing that those people had in common, by those people I'm talking about, David, Daniel, Paul, Noah, Sarah, the list goes on. The one thing that they had in common was they had faith. So you could be in the lowest place right now. You could be jobless, homeless, and you could be an addict of some kind, an alcoholic, and all that. But if you've got faith and you're working with the Lord, you have everything you need, because when you have faith, God will become the bridge to your freedom and your salvation and anything you're wanting to achieve. And if it's God's purpose and plan for you, He will become that bridge and He will help you cross it. So wherever you are in life, whoever you are, as long as you have faith, God will qualify you for what needs to be done in your life. One of my absolute favorite verses in the Bible is Hebrews 11:6, and it's without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. I think I love that verse so much because it's simple, and sometimes it's actually easier to have faith than have to worry about trying to qualify yourself or put in the work yourself to achieve something. Sometimes it's actually just so much more simple to just have faith. And I love how faith is something we all can access. Each and every one of us can access faith. And then if you have faith, God will qualify you. Okay, so I'm not actually meant to be talking about faith. That wasn't my intention, because I will do a whole episode on faith. I want to talk about heavenly qualifications. Isn't it amazing that the specific calling and purpose God has for you, the devil or nobody on this earth can take that away from you? That path that God has specially cut out for you, no man, no demon can come in and destroy it unless you allow it to, and unless you allow the doubt in. So what God calls you to, He will help you through. I feel so drawn to this episode on God qualifying the unqualified because time and time again, God has qualified me. and times where in the natural I couldn't be more unqualified for the role. But I've seen so clearly where God has become the bridge, and He has filled in the gaps and helped me qualify for certain opportunities and experiences. I'm actually going to go a little bit into my testimony. I'm not going to do the full story of my testimony. I just want to pull out parts where God's qualified me for things. So I really struggled in school. I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia when I was very young. I struggled to read, write, concentrate, spell, and pretty much if you were diagnosed with those two learning difficulties, especially back then when I was in school, it was a recipe for academic disaster, basically, because people didn't understand as well as they do now, and it was really hard. I was so behind, and it got to a point where the teachers even gave up on me. I mean, fair enough. Do you guys remember in English, the English teacher would make each and every one of you read a paragraph in a book you were reading? I refused. When they were looking at me being like, you have to read, I would fight back. I was so naughty. I would hide under my desk. I was like, I am not reading, because I couldn't. How could I do that? I had these learning difficulties, and I was so behind already, and it was the most terrifying thing for me. I was so mad at the school system for making me feel stupid and unqualified. I think that being at school really rooted in me a insecurity that I'm still dealing with, and it is hard, and it was a part of my life that was a terrifying part because I was young and I didn't understand. So going into adulthood, I continued to struggle with reading, writing, spelling, and I knew from a very early age that I wasn't going to go to uni, and it just wasn't an option for me. It never crossed my mind. I mean, how could a student who never sat one exam in school go to university? I was just so lucky to have a supportive mother. So my mum prayed for my sisters and I continuously throughout our life, and she was my biggest support. Thank you, Mum. I love you. I just wouldn't be where I am today without her. And I came to her one day when I was 16 and I was like, Mum, I want to leave school. I'm done. And she didn't get angry. She encouraged me. She's like, good, you leave school. You're wasting your time. You go and you follow your dreams. So one thing I want to say to parents, I'm not a mum, so I can't understand, but from experiences of seeing how my mum treated me, pray for your kids and listen and try your hardest to understand where they're coming from. If they are struggling with something, they are genuinely struggling with something. So it's not a joke, it's not for attention. When a child is struggling in school or in life in general, listen to them. It really will make the world of difference for the future. I wanted to be a flight attendant since I could remember. I was great with people, I was physically fit, and I was quick. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I eventually got the job as a Air New Zealand flight attendant, and then I started intense training to qualify as cabin crew. And for those who don't know, flight attendant training is very, very stressful. It requires a huge amount of study, muscle memory, concentration, and learning. I passed that course with 100%. For someone who struggled academically, I passed with flying colors. And the weird thing was, I enjoyed it. I actually was quite upset when the course ended because I enjoyed learning, studying, and I felt like I was finally good at something. And it was the best feeling. God qualified me. He qualified me throughout that course. And God called me to that specific career path because He knew that the experiences and the opportunities I would then experience in the job would lead me to where I am today and eventually lead me to my purpose. So there was no way He was going to allow me to fail at that course. Fast forward to a couple of years, I then started to do a lot of ambassador jobs for the airline. I started to do ads, voiceovers, and eventually I made it on a safety video. For those who don't know, Air New Zealand safety videos are super unique to the airline, and it really showcases what New Zealand is, and it's so much fun to be a part of. It's exciting and it's awesome. So I was on set for the safety video and they told me to read a teleprompter. A teleprompter is a screen with a camera behind, and on that screen it's got the script and it moves slowly up. It's like what the news presenters read. And they told me to read that teleprompter accurately and to keep pace. And I did. I read and presented good enough for the company to ask me to do 2 more safety videos. How does someone who couldn't read a paragraph in front of a classroom, left school at 16, who struggled to read and write, let alone concentrate and focus, be able to read a fast-paced teleprompter out loud with bright lights, a huge production team, and a huge camera in her face? I will tell you how. God qualified her. Please don't take what I'm saying as, look at me, look what I've done. No, I'm sharing this because I want to share the glory of my God and where He has come into my life and qualified me. Through my weakness, He became my strength. And I will never forget that. Without Him, I wouldn't have even initially passed that first course of flight attendant school. So right now I feel God calling me to put my all into this podcast where I have to read, write, create episodes, and I couldn't do it without Him. There's no way. I'm not qualified to preach or minister, but the Holy Spirit has gifted me with the ability to do so. I don't know how, He just has. And He can use me all He likes, because whenever I've tried to do things my own way, it never works. Life becomes so difficult and so disappointing, and I can't do it because I need His qualification. So what I want to ask you is, where do you feel God is calling you? And what area of that calling do you feel unqualified? Because I'm telling you, whatever God calls you to, He will help you through. Don't ever shy away from something you feel like God is calling you to just because you are in the natural completely unqualified. Friends, we have to stop looking at how big the mountain and obstacles are and start looking at how big our God is. The thing is we first need to identify what that calling is. So spend time with God, start seeking Him, and to do this, you need to spend time with Him. You need to be in His Word, and you just need to talk to Him. We need to start putting Him before our dreams and before our desires. Maybe God has put you somewhere that you couldn't have got there without Him, and He qualified you for that role, just say a job, and you are thriving in that job and you're doing really, really well. This is what happened to me. I had that. I got this job as a music journalist, and I was presenting and I was doing everything I thought I wanted to be doing. And I stopped seeking God because I was like, thanks God, you've got me where I needed to be. I'll take the steering wheel and I'll take it from here. And I stopped involving Him in my life because I was like, sweet, I've got everything I want. I'm good. I'll carry on. And so when I did that, and over a period of time, I started to suck at what I was doing. I started to dislike what I was doing. And I was like, why? God, you led me here. This is where you wanted me. I thought you wanted me to be a music journalist. So why am I failing at this? And why am I so mentally struggling when I thought this is everything I wanted? But what I didn't realize is that that specific career was only meant to be a season of learning. It wasn't my end goal. It wasn't the end success and the dream career I thought in my mind it was. It was just a period of learning. But I missed that because I stopped asking and seeking God. And during that season of learning and learning those skills, and everything I learned in that job is everything I need to make this podcast work and this YouTube channel work. I needed those skills and those lessons to know how to do everything I'm doing right now and what I genuinely feel God is calling me to. And if this isn't the end goal and this isn't the end dream God has for me, that's fine, as long as I don't miss what He has next. And to do that, I just need to remain in His will and remain on the path He has cut out for me. And to do that, seeking Him, reading His Word. I have said this in pretty much every episode, but I will say it again and I will keep on saying it. God has a plan and purpose for your life. He does, and it's a good one. It's such an incredible plan that He has for you, and whatever you're dreaming of, times that by 1,000. That's what He has for you. So just keep seeking Him, keep praying and talking to Him, involve Him in everything you're doing, and I promise you will be qualified because He will qualify you. Okay, that's it for Heavenly Qualifications. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and got something from it. Next week is going to be about learning to let go. So make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Catch you later.